One of the worst administrations in history, maybe not one of them, the worst. Anybody that would allow millions of people to pour through our borders from jails, prisons, mental institutions, insane asylums, gang members to be taken off the streets of Venezuela and deposited in our country, and many, not just Venezuela. You know, crime in Venezuela is down 74% because they took their criminals and gave them to us through an open border policy of the previous administration. All over the world, they're emptying their prisons into our country. They're emptying their mental institutions into our country. It stops as of 1 o'clock this afternoon. Okay? So revoking nearly 80 destructive, radical executive actions of the previous administration. They'll all be null and void within about, 5 minutes? Is that them over there? 5 minutes? And next, to gain immediate control of the vast federal, out-of-control bureaucracy, I will implement an immediate regulation freeze, which will stop Biden bureaucrats from continuing to regulate. Most of those bureaucrats are being fired. They're gone. Should be all of them, but some sneak through. We'll have to live with a couple, I guess. I'll also issue a temporary hiring freeze to ensure that we're only hiring competent people who are faithful to the American public. And we will pause the hiring of any new IRS agents. We will also require that federal workers must return to the office in person. We're going to take the 88,000 people that they hired to go after you with guns. By the way, they're allowed to use guns and harass you like they were so many other people. Remember this, okay? Remember? Do you remember a little statement about tips? Does anybody remember that little statement? I think we won Nevada because of that statement. But they went out and harassed you over the tips. In other words, we are restoring control of our government to the people. We're going to take those 88,000. Let's see if they'd like to work on the border, because that's what we want them, really. So we're going to have no tax on tips, right? No tax. We may have, like the Speaker of the House, is he here? He's done such a good job. Is Mike here? He's around here someplace. I saw him just a little while ago. Hello, fellas. Look at you guys. Yeah, I know it. He's great. He's doing great. They're all doing good. The Republican Party has never been unified like it is right now. They want to save our country. And we're going to more than save it. We're going to make it greater than it's ever been before by a lot. Next, I'm going to sign a presidential memorandum directing every member of my cabinet to marshal every power at their disposal to defeat inflation and rapidly bring down the cost of daily life, because your costs have gone through the roof in the last 4 years. Perhaps you didn't notice. Does anyone notice their costs are like double, triple, quadruple? You can't buy bacon. Apples have doubled in price. You want an apple, anybody? Pay twice what you did 2 years ago. We'll put more money in your pocket, and we'll bring back the American dream and to reduce energy costs and liberate our economy. So we have more oil and gas than any country in the world, and we're going to use it. We're not going to do the wind thing. Wind. Big ugly windmills, they ruin your neighborhood, they ruin you. If you have a house that's near a windmill, guess what? Your house is worth less than half. And did you see up in New England with the whales? You see what's happening? So they had 2 whales killed in about 14 years. Last year and the year before, total they had 28. So if you're into whales, you know what windmills are. And they're the most expensive form of energy that you can have by far. And they're all made in China, by the way. Practically all. And they kill your birds and they ruin your beautiful landscapes. But other than that, I think they're quite good, right? Now, remember when we used to joke and kid, when we were kidding, but we don't kid anymore? They want to watch the debates on television, they want to watch your favorite president on television. But the wind isn't blowing, so we can't watch television that night, Gladys. Remember? Gladys, I'm sorry, the wind is just not blowing. We're not watching Trump tonight. But I'm immediately withdrawing from the unfair, one-sided Paris Climate Accord ripoff. The United States will not sabotage our own industries while China pollutes with impunity. You know, China, look, they use a lot of dirty energy, but they produce a lot of energy. And when that stuff goes up in the air, you know, it doesn't stay there. It's not like you got a wall. We love walls, don't we? Not like you have a wall around it and it doesn't. It floats into the United States of America after 3.5 to 5.5 days. It floats across the oceans and it comes right over your neighborhood and it falls into your neighborhood. So they all say, we have to fight for cleaner air, but the other dirty air is dropping all over us. So what the hell are they talking about? Unless everybody does it, it just doesn't work. You know, we have the cleanest air and the cleanest water that this country's ever had under the Trump administration. And we didn't do anything to stop jobs and stop production, believe me. You're gonna see a lot of companies come pouring back because tariffs. I always say tariffs is the most beautiful word to me in the dictionary. And I was reprimanded by the fake news. They said, what about love, religion, and God? I said, I agree. Let's put God number one. Let's put religion number two. Love, I don't know. We gotta put that number 3, I guess, right? And then it's tariff. Because tariffs are gonna make us rich as hell. It's gonna bring our country's businesses back that left us. And I'll also sign an executive order to immediately end federal government censorship of the American people. In America, we believe in free speech, and we're bringing it back starting today. To stop the weaponization. Oh, do I know about that? These creeps. Deranged Jack Smith. You ever hear of that? Deranged. He's a deranged prosecutor. He's sick. They suck him on me. He's now been reduced to getting on an airplane, going back to The Hague or wherever the hell he came from. We got to get rid of that guy. Hey, was he one of the many people that got a pardon today? Did they pardon Jack Smith? You know, did you know that Biden, while I was making my speech, pardoned his whole family? The brother, the whole deal was pardoned. Can you imagine that? While I was making my speech. Did everybody hear my speech? Did you like my speech? I mean, the only thing wrong with it is I had a lot of tough things to say. And I have some great people that work for me. Sir, this is such a great speech. It's so unifying. Don't talk about Biden with his pardons of his family. We want a unified country. They said, don't talk about the J6 hostages that you're going to be releasing today. Sir, don't put that in your speech, please. I said, but I didn't really, I want to put it in my speech. I said, sir, it won't be unified like it is. It's so beautiful the way it is. And it is getting great reviews. You know, if I put things like that in, I get terrible reviews. One little paragraph that's a little bit wrong, the fake news goes crazy, right? So, I said, all right, I won't put it in my speech, but you know what? I'm speaking in front of a hell of a lot of people at a place called Capital One Arena, and I'll talk about it. So we're going to be going over the beautiful Oval Office, one of the great offices in history. Even if it wasn't beautiful, it's the Oval Office, but it is beautiful. And we love the Oval Office. It all starts with the Oval. The wars start and end there. Everything starts and ends in the Oval Office. We love it. But we're going to go to the Oval Office. We're going to release our great hostages that didn't do, for the most part, they didn't do stuff wrong. You take a look at what went on. And look what happens in other parts of the country. In Portland, where they kill people, they destroy the city, nothing happens to them. In Seattle, where they took over a big chunk of the city, nothing happened. Minneapolis, where they burned down the city, nothing happened. Essentially nothing happened. All they want to do is go after the J6 hostages. A 76-year-old grandmother was arrested the other day. Because she was looking, I think because she was looking at the Capitol or something like that. Nah, we're not going to put up with that crap anymore. And to stop the weaponization of law enforcement, I've been investigated more than any human being in the world. I believe I have the all-time record. Every day a subpoena. Every single day we get subpoenas. I was more than any person. Alphonse Capone, remember I used to talk about it? You know, Alphonse Capone, Scarface, he was a pretty rough guy. He was investigated about 1/100th what Trump was in. My father's looking down at me, my mother. How the hell did this happen? You know what it is? They investigated their political opponent, the opponent of Biden, and then ultimately Kamala. Has anyone ever heard of Kamala? We had to beat two opponents, you know? We had to beat Biden and we beat him. Now he goes on top, the guy was like 39 points down. I think I could have beaten Trump. They should have left me in, I would have beaten. You know, his debate performance wasn't the best, right? That's what killed him. And then they had a change and it's like you get into a fight. The great Dana White spoke last night. We love Dana White, right? UFC. That's like, he puts in two fighters, one of them's getting creamed, getting really beaten, and they say, all right, take him out, let's put somebody else in to finish up the fight. That's what they did to us. They gave us somebody new, but we took care of both of them. So we beat actually two opponents. But to stop the weaponization of law enforcement and our government, I will also sign an order directing every federal agency to preserve all records pertaining to political persecutions under the last administration, of which there were many, and beginning the process of exposing any and all abuses of power, even though he's pardoned many of these people. Can you believe it? He's pardoned. You know why he did it while I was speaking? Because that way I couldn't speak about it. I was speaking. I didn't know he did it. I finished my speech, and they said, sir, he pardoned his whole family. I said, ooh, can I go back out there and talk about it? Somehow that wouldn't be very elegant. Our First Lady would say, please don't do that. We have plenty of time to talk about it, and we will. We're doing all of this on our very first day in office. You know, don't forget, we've been in this position, really, where we won the primaries in record time. The fastest win of a primary ever in political history, which is a very nice thing. It's nice to know. Well, the second election was rigged, so we knew we were doing well. And if it wasn't, you know what? If it wasn't, I would have never run. But this third one was just a monster. Boy, was that a big one, huh? That was a... On the second one, we got like 10 or 12 million votes more than the first one. How about that? We did great on the first one. We did much better on the second one. But man, did we do well with the third one. So we're gonna have some fun. It's very simple. We're gonna make our country great. We're gonna make our country great again. We're gonna make America great again. How good a name is MAGA though, right? You know? I was going to say, keep America great, but unfortunately it wasn't great. Can't say keep it great. It will be great again, but CAG, keep America great, CAG. I don't think it's ever going to replace MAGA. Does anybody like CAG? I don't think so. Never replacing MAGA. Nothing will ever replace MAGA. MAGA was the most successful political operation, political movement in the history of our country, maybe in the history of the world. Let's see what happens. Because we're not finished yet. We're not finished yet. We got a long way to go. But we're doing this in the very first day in office, and in just a few moments, I'm not only signing the release of the J6 hostages, I'm signing other things that you're gonna love. Oh, you're gonna be happy reading newspapers tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. So I just want to thank, I mean, look at this place, it's full to the rafters. You don't have any, look at those people up there. You don't have any empty seats. And by the way, the Capital One owners, they are so good. We got to root for their teams because they have been so great to MAGA, to us. And I just want to thank Ted and everybody. You guys have been fantastic. And the ice hockey team's doing great. Ovechkin's pretty good, right? They're doing great. So I want to thank them, Capital One Arena owners. They have been absolutely fantastic. And thank you once again to everyone. And I can only tell you, you're going to be very happy. You're going to watch a lot of good things happen. We've got to stop some wars that are happening and going on. Some stupid things are happening. The war with Ukraine would have never happened, and it has. As you know, Israel would have never been hit on October 7th, and none of you would be up here, none of you would even know anything about this tragedy that you're going through right now. But Iran was broke. Anybody that bought oil from Iran, they couldn't do any business with us. You're not going to do business with America. China passed, everybody passed, they were broke. They didn't have money for Hamas, they didn't have money for Hezbollah. And your sons would be alive, and they certainly wouldn't be incarcerated like they are. It's a shame, but we're getting a lot of people out in a short period of time. So I'm going to go right over to here, and I'm going to sign in front of you. Is that okay? Good.
Sure. The first item that President Trump is signing is the rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others. The second item, President Trump, is a regulatory freeze, as you announced in your speech, preventing bureaucrats from issuing any more regulations until we have full control of this the government with this administration. The next item, sir, is a freeze on all federal hiring, excepting the military and a number of other excluded categories, again, until full control of the government is achieved and we understand the objectives of government going forward.
Could you imagine Biden doing this? I don't think so.
Sir, the next item, as you announced in your speech, is a requirement that federal workers return to full-time in-person work immediately. Thank you, sir. Next, we have a directive to every department and agency in the federal government to address the cost of living crisis that has cost Americans so dearly. Thank you, sir. The next item here is the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Treaty. Yes, sir. We're going to save over $1 trillion by withdrawing from that treaty. And the next item, sir, is a letter that will be transmitted to the United Nations explaining that we are withdrawing from the Paris Climate Treaty. Thank you, sir. This next item is a directive to the federal government ordering the restoration of freedom of speech and preventing government censorship of free speech going forward. And lastly, sir, before we go back to the Oval Office to sign a large number of other items, is a directive to the federal government ending the weaponization of government against the political adversaries of the previous administration, as we've seen.